Welcome back everyone, Pro Engineering here, and this is my Project Mud Blaster. Many of you have seen this before. This is the vehicle that I am working on my double wishbone rear suspension. Those of you again who have seen this have also noticed that it is now clean. I've finally given it a bath. Since I really wasn't planning on turning this car into a project vehicle, it kind of just happened. I've got a couple of parts in here. This is the H1 front, I guess this is a bumper mount for the ORV cars. I've also got H2 and H3. These are the upper and lower control arms for the front of the pickup over here. You will also note that these are the kinds that would typically be found in these vehicles. These, for those of you who aren't aware of that, these little uprights here are designed to allow the, I'll show you right here actually, on the Frog or the Brat or the Lancia Rally, they will allow these little pegs here with these springs to push on them, and this is what gives you your front suspension. I have made two versions of these. I have the ones that are completely stock replacements, and I also have some that have these completely removed, since on the big wheel vehicles you don't need them. The beauty of that is it's a lot less material and therefore they're significantly less expensive. One of the reasons I moved forward with this is I have quite often purchased these vehicles on eBay only to find that this front bumper is typically broken. On top of that, I'm not a very rough driver of these cars. I'm significantly well beyond that. However, I do drive them quite often, and I have found that these front H1 bumper brackets tend to break if you look at them wrong. One of the reasons for that is that these are made of a very, very hard ABS plastic. This makes them very strong, very rigid, but not pliable. That means if you run these, and I suspect that these tend to break if you run them without bumpers. If you do run these without a bumper and you do hit a curb or you take a particularly hard landing, you may very well crack or break these completely off the vehicle. Also, on a couple of occasions, I've fractured arms, and I've received countless emails from people telling me how brittle this H1 piece is, as well as the H2 and H3 arms. I haven't had the most problems with these. In fact, they've been fairly reliable for me, but again, I have on a couple of occasions fractured them, and I suspect it normally has to do with the fact that the vehicles that I am running are a bit older and are previously used, so maybe they have had a bit of a rougher life. On top of all that, practically everything has been done to an ORV car already. Whatever you want to customize on these cars has been done by someone, and in this case here, you now have the option of installing different color pieces to accent your vehicle. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and pull the front H1 piece off, as well as the H2 and H3. I'm going to do these all in the same video simply because they're all in the same spot. We'll install these, see how the fit and finish goes, and see how it works. The Mud Blaster has been taken apart, and as we can see here, comparing the original H1 to the new H1, much of the geometry has been emulated. As you can see here, this rear member is quite similar to the original, as is this geometry in this region here. The reason for that is the chassis does clamshell over this, so I really didn't have very much to work with here without causing this to not properly fit in its location in the chassis. So what I have done instead is made these gussets here that will allow any impact in these regions here to at least have some sort of tension from simply collapsing backwards and potentially breaking. You can see here that these are also no longer hollow. This means a head-on impact will not cause a fracture in one of these thinner areas. The question is, will this break? Absolutely. This is laser sintered nylon. It's incredibly strong. It is also flexible, but it is not made out of titanium. It's a very, very durable piece. And ultimately, we would rather that this piece or this piece broke instead of damaging your chassis. Whereas this one here is very, very rigid. In fact, if you own an original one, it's going to be very rigid and very brittle just due to age. This one here is nylon, and therefore when you thread into it, unlike this one here, you have a lot more give in these holes, and therefore you're going to have a lot less stresses developing in all of these mounting regions. Although we're not going to use this point here, should you have a frog or a brat, and I believe the Launcher Rally also used it, you do have the option of putting in your stud for your front body mount. Since I've got this in my hand already, let's install it. I suppose we could have disassembled the entire chassis. I simply did not feel like it. It is in. Nice tight fit. That's exactly what we wanted to see. You will receive these on a sprue. The reason for this, if I've also mentioned this in other videos, is because during the laser sintering process, these are in a bed of powdered nylon, and it can be easy to have one misplaced when they're being removed and cleaned. In this case here, this will prevent any one of these from being lost during packaging or during the cleaning process from Shapeways. To remove them, we're just going to break the sprue. When you have the sprue, definitely take a look and see how flexible this is. It is quite bendy. You are looking at a 2 millimeter diameter rod that is comprising this here. So let's get rid of that, and these are the arms. You'll find that much like, here we go, much like the originals, you do have the same width, the same length, the same thickness. Normally when it comes to these products, I typically have people do a final stage of manufacturing, which is going to be drilling out the holes to get a proper fit. I was uncomfortable with that in this case because these, on the H2 part, this rear one is a larger diameter than the front one. And on the H3 part, they're the same diameter. I was concerned that possibly a person that was a little less experienced may simply drill them all out and thusly ruin the parts. Therefore, I've decided that it would be probably best to simply have these pre-drilled for you. So with that said, let's go ahead and install these. I'm going to put this in the bottom one here. The bottom is where your strut arm is going to thread in. So push this through there. It's going to be a little snug. Okay, there it is. I'm not going to torque these on screen. We'll just get these started. So there's our first one. Secondly, we'll flip this one over here. Push the shaft through here. Oops. Okay, shaft has been... Come on, you can do it. There it goes. That's installed. Close this up here. I like to put a little bit of thread lock on these guys because I hate he-manning these nuts down. It tends to make it a little bit more difficult to get them out. Okay, these are the arms. I'm going to go ahead and do this side here, and we'll be right back. Both arms have been installed. The upper links here go on when the tower goes on. But before I put that on, however, I did want to put on the strut arms. So for this, we're going to thread them directly into the nylon. This nylon will self-tap very nicely. Let's go ahead and grab the screwdriver here and just thread it right in. This nylon's quite good, so when it stops, that's it. The screw is really going to have problems backing out. I would very much recommend that the minute the screw becomes a little stiff, that's it. Don't go any tighter. You don't want to strip the hole out, much like you wouldn't want to strip the hole out on the factory plastic. Let's go ahead and put the other one in over here. All right, so all installed. Let's put the shock tower on and then go from there. Bumper is ready to go on, so let's flip it over and install this guy here. It's going to go on exactly like the original would. Just thread it right in. These are designed to thread right into. You're not going to have to drill anything out. They are undersized and designed for the self-tapping Tamiya screws to go and bite right into. The final one here in the center. And that's that. You know, it's a pretty straightforward installation. It's simply replacing the original parts with parts that fit in the exact same manner as the originals. I'm sure you all want to see how this thing performs. Unfortunately, yeah, that's not quite going to happen. As soon as I get the rear suspension installed on this vehicle, this is going to be the double wishbone rear suspension, I will do some serious thrashes on this car at the local RC car track, NorCal Hobbies. And when I say thrashing, you're going to see this thing launching through the air. So I am really looking forward to that. And the fact that I haven't been to the track in quite some time kind of also makes me really want to go. So you'll see quite a bit of this car. Stay tuned. There's going to be significantly more stuff on the ORV in particular. We're going to have a chassis brace coming out soon that's going to reinforce this entire region of the chassis. As you can tell, the double wishbone suspension setup will also be coming out soon, as well as an entire line of body mounts. I know these mud blaster mounts tend to be a little bit hard to get, and I want to change that. You also are going to see this guy here soon. So it's currently attached to the Mud Blaster body mounts, but this is that notorious bar that goes straight across back over here and snaps when you look at it. This is SLS nylon, so, you know, as usual, quite bendy, quite flexy. These aren't going to break nearly as often as the originals. Well, I hope you enjoy that. Stay tuned. Like I said, there's going to be a lot more coming up. Please add me on Instagram and Facebook at AmProEngineering. And before you take off, check out the band Blue Pinto. They are the ones that allow me to use their songs in my videos. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.